What is up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, I'm going to answer the biggest question I had when I first started working out. What rep range should I do at the gym? I'm going to explain the pros and cons for each rep range, which ones to avoid, and how to determine which one is best for your individual body. Let's go. So what exactly is a rep range? It's important to know this because without understanding the purpose behind rep ranges, you can end up wasting a lot of time at the gym. Anytime we talk about rep ranges, this is the number of reps we're aiming for during a set. But listen closely, using a rep range is only going to be useful if your set is taken close to muscle failure. What I mean by that is, let's say your rep range is 10 to 12 reps and you do 11, but in reality, you could have done 20 easily. When you have a target rep range, it is essential to take that set close to muscle failure, or else you won't stimulate the type of muscle growth you are looking for. A set taken close to muscle failure essentially means you couldn't do more than 4 reps at the end of your set if your life depended on it. An example of this is, let's say you hop on the bench press and do as many reps as you can, and on that 11th rep, the bar just stops and you can't lift it anymore. This means you would need to do between 7 to 10 reps with this weight in order for the set to be effective. Anything less than this would leave too many reps on the table that you could have actually done if you just push yourself a little bit harder. Long story short, the amount of weight you use during an exercise is going to determine the rep range. So when you pick weight for an exercise, make sure it's enough weight that takes your muscle close to failure within that range. So what rep range should we never use? It's best to start things off by saying the rep ranges I'm going to talk about are specific to building muscle. I say this because if building muscle is your goal, there are 2 rep ranges we want to avoid. This is the 1 to 3 rep range and anything over 30 reps. The 1 to 4 rep range is best used for building pure strength, and anything over 30 reps, the set just turns into cardio and endurance. Not to say these rep ranges can't build any muscle, it's just building muscle is not the primary focus when using these ranges. Okay, so now we know anything between 5 and 30 reps is great for building muscle. It's best to break down these rep ranges into subcategories. You may be asking, why not just use this big ass range to keep things simple? And the answer to that is each range has its upsides and downsides. And these are going to determine which rep range you should use for each specific exercise, which will result in you getting the most out of each and every one of your workouts. So what are the different rep ranges? We're going to break these down to 3 groups: the 5 to 10 rep range, 10 to 20, and 20 to 30. Think of these ranges as heavy, medium, and lightweight. Okay, starting off with the upsides for the 5 to 10 rep range. This is by far my personal favorite range to train in, and mainly because of how efficient it is. What I mean by that is, when you lift this heavy, every single rep you do stimulates a lot of muscle growth. Your first rep is already getting pretty damn close to reaching muscle failure. Compare this to a set of 20 reps. The first 10 reps you do are essentially practice reps because you are still pretty far from reaching failure. So the sets take much longer and require a lot more time for you to focus. That brings me to my second point. Staying focused is another aspect why I love this rep range. When you only have to do 5 to 10 reps, the amount of time required for you to focus during a set is much shorter compared to a higher rep set. This helps me truly perfect every single rep I'm performing. I find myself sometimes losing focus towards the end of a set if I'm doing more than 15 reps. Building strength is another great aspect of using this rep range. Out of all 3 ranges, the 5 to 10 range builds the most strength. And building strength is crucial when it comes to building muscle, especially if you're a beginner, because this strength can translate to you using more weight in the higher rep ranges, which will definitely help you in the long run. We've talked a lot about taking your sets close to muscle failure, and the 5 to 10 rep range can teach you what true muscle failure is compared to the other rep ranges. This is really important to learn as a lifter. As we now know, if you don't take your sets close to failure, you won't build a lot of muscle. And when you lift really heavy, it's a lot easier to identify this point in a set. If you've ever done a set of 8 reps, you know the first 4 reps are pretty damn smooth, and out of nowhere you just hit a wall. The bar slows down and you just hit that sticking point in your set. Now compare this to a set of 20 to 30 reps. The amount of pain and burn that occurs in this range hurts like hell. And a lot of the time we can find ourselves stopping a lot shorter of muscle failure because of this pain. You may have been able to squeeze out 10 more reps, but the pain is what stops you, not true muscle failure. When you use the 5 to 10 rep range, the amount of burn just isn't that bad. And we don't stop a set because of pain, we stop because we can't move the bar anymore. Okay, now for the cons. The biggest downside to lifting heavy is the risk of injury is the highest. This is because we are dealing with the absolute most weight our bodies can handle. When we are placed under this amount of stress, small breakdown in form can be a lot worse compared to a weight you can do for 30 reps. A good way to look at this is compared sprinting as fast as you can versus walking. Walking is going to be much safer because if you trip, you can catch yourself pretty easily. versus sprinting, you're going straight down. Lifting this heavy is also the hardest on our joints and tendons, so if you overuse this rep range, there's a higher chance you may have some more aches and pains across your body. This rep range is also the most fatiguing mentally and physically. This is because it trains our central nervous system the hardest. Think of this as the system that tells our muscles to fire up. Let's say this system gets burned out during a workout. The amount of fatigue you feel goes through the roof, and every single rep just feels like the hardest thing in the world. This isn't just physical either. If you lift heavy for too long, it can throw you off mentally pretty bad. Good way to put this is you're looking at the bar to do a set of squats. You say to yourself, I am just not ready for this shit. You feel fatigued, tired, and just not motivated to finish things off strong. This is the biggest sign that your nervous system is burnt out. All right, moving into the 10 to 20 rep range. This range can also be pretty damn efficient if you stay within the bottom portion of the range. Doing about 10 to 15 reps can still be relatively efficient, but as you go beyond this point, the sets become much longer and require a lot more focus. Even though the sets are longer, you will find the time required to rest between sets is generally quicker, so you may save some time in that regard. This range is also a lot safer. When you're working with weight that isn't as close to your 1 rep max, your ability to control the weight during an exercise is a lot easier. If something ever slips up during a set, you can generally catch yourself without a serious injury. Don't get me wrong, you can get injured in any rep range, but this is a lot safer compared to lifting heavy. Your joints and tendons also take a lot less stress using this range, so training like this can be a lot more sustainable. Okay, now for the cons. The 10 to 12 rep range doesn't build that much strength. Not to say you can't get stronger using this range, it's just not going to build as much as using the 5 to 10 range. This is because strength is built by working out our central nervous system, and lifting heavy is the style of training that targets the system the most. As for taking your sets close to muscle failure, I wouldn't consider this a big con if you do about 10 to 15 reps for a set. But as you move past this point, the muscle burn starts to get a lot more intense. And like we talked about, our ultimate goal is to stop a set because of muscle failure, not for the pain we're going through during a set. All right, now for the 20 to 30 rep range. This is my least favorite style of training, but it still has its upsides. The biggest upside is the risk for injury is the lowest. Take the sprinting versus walking example. When you're doing about 20 to 30 reps, your body has a lot better control with what it's working with, just like when you walk. Another upside from this range is the amount of stress on your joints and tendons. Your body can handle this range very well because the amount of force that goes on your joints and tendons with every rep is much lower compared to the other ranges. Using this range is great if you ever have pain during an exercise. A lot of the times going lighter can solve this issue. I find my elbow hurting anytime I do skull crushers for less than 20 reps, but the moment I use the 20 to 30 range, that pain is completely gone. Okay, now for the cons. Hands down, the biggest con of this rep range is what we talked about earlier, stopping a set short because of pain. If you have ever done a set of 30 reps, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The burn you feel in your muscles is unbelievable. It makes you just want to throw the weight as far away from you as possible. I rarely train in this range because of this. Yes, we can push through the pain and do as many reps as we need to get close to failure, but the overall enjoyment and mental fatigue may not be worth it. You truly have to dig deep and prepare yourself mentally to finish off a set like that. As you progress through a workout, the buildup of mental fatigue may slow you down a bit. As for focus, the amount of focus per set this rep range takes is the highest, and if you break it down, the first 20 reps you do are essentially practice reps. You're focusing for a long ass time for reps that don't really stimulate that much muscle growth. It can be difficult to truly give your full focus throughout an entire set that takes that long. Okay, it's time to choose a rep range. The most important thing you can do is try each rep range for all the exercises you do at the gym and see what works best for your body. One thing to consider is some exercises may not be good in specific rep ranges. An example of this is squats may not be the best to use in the 20 to 30 rep range because of the cardio squats require. You may end up stopping your set short from how out of breath you are, opposed to your legs actually failing during a set. On the opposite side of the spectrum, doing an isolation exercise like a dumbbell curl may not be best to do for 5 reps. An isolation movement is when only one joint is moving during an exercise, and when this happens, you can't produce that much force, and a lot of force is required when you lift in a heavier range. Key is finding which rep range is going to work best for your body with each exercise. Which rep range do you enjoy the most? Which one gives you the most feeling in the target muscle? Which one helps you stay the most focused? Etc. The biggest thing to consider during this process is the target muscle reaching close to failure at the end of a set. What I've learned over the years is specific rep ranges don't allow this for some exercises. I generally always use the 5 to 10 rep range anytime I do a chest pressing movement. The reason for this is once I start going really high rep, my shoulders end up burning so bad I stop my set. And this showed me my chest is not the limiting factor during this, my shoulders are. So when you are figuring out which rep range to use, keep this in mind. You always want the target muscle to be the limiting factor, nothing else. Alright, so here's your plan of action. Start off by picking a rep range you have never used before. You may find an exercise feels 10 times better just by switching things up. Consider the pros and cons from each rep range and find what sticks out to you. If you find yourself feeling unsafe with an exercise, don't lift as heavy. Or if you feel like the target muscle is not the limiting factor during a set, use a different rep range and see if that fixes the problem. Like I said before, the key is finding which rep range is going to feel the best for your body with each exercise. As you get more experience with this process, it becomes much easier, and by the end of it, you will love every exercise you do because it will feel so smooth in that specific rep range. If you got any value from this video or want to see more videos on lifting, hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching, everyone. Let's go.